This is the Rugged Revival podcast, and we are back again for another episode on a Friday night. We've decided to switch things up ever so slightly, and today we've got legendary and professional storm chaser Ricky Forbes with us. Ricky is originally from Saskatchewan, Canada. He's not only an expert storm chaser, but also a TV personality, having appeared on the Netflix series Tornado Hunters. He's a keynote speaker, brand ambassador, and awesome content creator. Being a huge weather geek and obviously a fan of Ricky's work, I could not wait to have him on the show today. As I said, we're kind of mixing up slightly. We tend to have country music artists on the show, and some of them play a song or two at the end. But with Ricky not being from the music scene, he's agreed to sing some karaoke at the end. Is that good for you, mate?
Yeah. If you guys like Shania Twain, I can do that for you.
No, I won't do that to you. But how are you doing anyway? How's your week been so far?
Yeah, it's really good. I still live in Saskatchewan, Canada, so that's where I am right now. And we got about a foot of snow this week. And it's been a lot of fun here at home. And it's good, man.
Awesome. It's funny you say you got about a foot of snow. We had probably like 2 millimeters of snow in England over the last couple of days, and everything seems to shut down. Everyone's panicking. I was supposed to take my lads to their soccer practice tonight, and that was called off. So I don't know how you guys would cope if it was like that where we are here. It's you kind of just get on with it when the weather's bad in Canada, don't you?
Yeah. Like where I live, like in the middle of Canada, for about a month a year, it's in February, where we have temperatures of minus 40 Celsius and below for the whole month, if not longer. And there'll be times where we'll have like 2-3 feet of snow, not necessarily on the roadways, like pushed to the side, but sometimes it does snow like that. So it happens all the time, and our world can't shut down. Otherwise we'd be shut down for 4 or 5 months. So it doesn't matter how cold it gets. It doesn't matter how much snow there is. Life carries on as normal.
And the kids still go to school, unlike here.
Yeah.
It's no getting out of it. That's great. No, it's so what was it like growing up in Saskatchewan? Am I pronouncing that correctly before I carry on? Is that the right way of saying it?
Yeah. Impressively, you're doing really well. Most people can't do it. And actually, that's the province. The city I'm from is called Saskatoon, so it's a mouthful. I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Okay, awesome. So what was it like growing up there? Have you always been there? Have you moved around at all?
Yeah. So I grew up here and went to university here, and I did end up moving away. But growing up here, it's the flatlands, it's the prairies here, and and so it's big agriculture. Lots of mining, lots of oil and gas where I'm from. And so we grew, and I grew up in small towns, like towns of like 1,000 people or less. Even like the province I live in total, we have just over 1 million people. My city, and we call this a big city here, and it's funny talking to you about it, but my city has 300,000 people. Like when it takes more than 15 minutes to get from one side of the city to the other, you're like, why is this taking so long? So it's a little bit different here, but I love it. Canada's a really cool country, really beautiful country, and I moved away for a little bit into the Rockies of Canada. I love the snow sports, also another beautiful place, but like I love many parts of the world, but I do love Canada.
It's on my bucket list, Ricky, absolutely, to come over and just experience something different. And I was doing a bit of research on Saskatchewan and understand it's an area where extreme weather, like you mentioned, the snow, but with kind of stuff like tornadoes as well. And I'm sure because I'm always watching these tornado videos on YouTube and whatnot, and I'm sure Saskatoon has come up quite a few times with some enormous kind of storms. And is that kind of how you got into it with that kind of environment that you were growing up in?
No. That is a great question, a common question I get. Because Saskatoon, where I live, we're at the northern tip of Tornado Alley. It runs all the way through the central United States. So it starts off in Texas at the bottom of the United States, all the way up into Canada. So hitting some provinces, it's called Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba here. And so I'm at the very northern tip, and we do get tornadoes around here. We'll get a few, about 5 or 10 a year. And like last year, for example, last year, the biggest tornado to happen in North America happened about four hours away from my doorstep here in Canada, and it was just over 600 meters wide, and it was about 8,000 feet tall, a really, really massive giant. So we do get them once in a while, and we get incredible storms. And so I grew up seeing these storms, but that's not what got me into it. I've always loved it. But what got me into it was, having a conversation much like this one day with somebody, and we're talking about different adventures. And then somebody, I was 25 years old, and somebody, the guy I was talking to, he's like, well, if you like doing that, he's like, you should try storm chasing. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, tornadoes. And I was like, I've seen the movie Twist. I was like, people don't do that. I don't know why. I just thought it was impossible. It's like telling me that you hunt aliens for a living, or not hunt, but like go searching for aliens for lasers. It doesn't seem real. And so sorry, this is getting long-winded, but I wasn't into it as a child. It was something that got introduced to me as I became an adult.
No, it's never long-winded. It's always interesting to know kind of how people got into what they're doing, and this is extremely unique, in terms of an occupation to get into. Well, was that a conversation over a beer or two in a bar, or was it just a friend at the time that you were speaking to?
Yeah, no, it was a conversation at a bar. It was a friend of a friend, and I've always been into adventures, like adrenaline adventures, so skydiving, dirt biking, things like that. And so that's what was happening. Is I was talking about a recent adventure I was on, and that's when the guy's like, wow, he's trying to one up me, and he did. He's like, if you like that, he's like, you got to try storm chasing. And he was a storm chaser. And so this is back in 2012, and I was like, in 2012, like social media is huge now, but like Instagram didn't exist in 2012, or it had just started, and like Facebook still wasn't that big. So like you weren't seeing, like, this stuff wasn't at your fingertips quite like it is now. And so I had no idea that people storm chased. And then he showed me a video on his phone. It was a grainy video because it was like iPhone 1 or something. And he showed me a tornado video, and he was beside it, and I was like, holy shit, I need to do this. And it was winter time, and I convinced him to take me out for a week. And so it was April of 2012 that we went down storm chasing, and so we went down to the heart of Tornado Alley, like Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. And we're down there for a week, and the whole week goes by and we don't see anything. And that happens storm chasing, and you don't see that too much on my social media. I'm not gonna tell you how much storm chasing sucks. It can be really tough. Like no matter how good of a forecaster you are, you can miss storms. But anyways, we're there for a week. 6 days go by, we don't see anything. I'm like, this sucks. And same as the last day comes up, I'll never forget the last day, and we're storm chasing that afternoon, but we had to head home that evening. We're gonna drive all the way home throughout the night. And I was like, this is too bad. Like if I don't catch anything, there's a good chance I'm not coming back. And sure enough, that day, a bunch of storms popped off. And for that trip, I was driving because I didn't know the forecast. I wasn't very good with the camera at the time. So they put me in the driver's seat. And I'll never forget that we're going through this massive wall of hail. So it's just a white blanket in front of you, and it's golf ball size hail. And it comes down, it's hammering the truck. And when you get lots of them, the truck starts to weigh down and bounce a little bit, and it's getting like you're swerving. And the like windshield starting to crack a little bit, so my nerves and adrenaline are already going. And then as the veil starts to part, like as the hail curtains start to open, we get on the other side, and I can see this massive tornado. Like I can see a right side and a left side to this big spinning object that looks like a massive drill bit just going into the ground, and I can see it digging into this field. And it was over a mile wide. Like I found out later, it was an EF4. Tornadoes on a scale of 0 to 5, and so it's an EF4. So this is a massive tornado. And so this tornado, it went on for just over 3.5 hours, which is unheard of. Like most tornadoes I go after are 10 to 20 minutes typically. So this goes on for over 3.5 hours, and for the majority of it, we got to drive right beside it. It's just the way the road networks worked out, because usually the tornado goes one way and the roads go the other, and it's kind of tough to keep up with it. But this, like, we were able to parallel it nearly the whole time. Like there was one point where it felt like we were 200 feet away from it, just driving beside this massive tornado as it was like tearing up forest and everything beside us. And yeah, it was. I was terrified. That's for certain. I was like, holy, yeah. But it was all these different feelings all at once. It was terrifying, but it had like this powerful, like majestic beauty to it. It had this like this feeling of as if you are seeing like an alien from outer space. Like, holy smokes, like they are real. Like I actually, sorry, usually what I say is it feels like, you know, as a little kid, you look under the bed because there might be a boogeyman. It's like you look under the bed and you're like, holy smokes, this is real. And yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. Tornadoes terrified me then. They still terrify me now. But I think that's part of the pull for me is getting to be there and witness like this giant coming to life. Like you feel so small beside it, and it's just incredible that you get to sit there and to watch it and be a part of it.
That's amazing. I don't think, you know, in the UK and places like that, we can kind of comprehend the kind of sheer magnitude of something like that. You know, like I said, if we have an inch of snow, you know, the whole country shuts down. And I just cannot imagine something of that scale, you know, being, you know, where we are and just seeing it in awe. You know, it would just be incredible. I've always wanted to go storm chasing and, you know, you mentioned kind of shitting your pants slightly and being really nervous. I think I'd be exactly the same. You know, you watch the kind of hailstorms come down, and you know the size of golf balls are even bigger. It's crazy. That must be a huge risk in itself. You know, it's battering the van. What happens when people get caught in it? Surely, how many cars or trucks have you totaled just from that sort of damage?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We do come across huge hail, golf ball, baseball size hail. And in fact, quick side note, the largest hailstone to ever fall in the world, they got one up last year in Argentina, and it was over 13 inches wide. An ice
Wow.
stone. Yeah. Sorry, back on track. Yeah, when we're storm chasing, we so we're 4 trucks in now. It's been 12 years and we've gone through 4 trucks. And so the first one didn't have any protection on it. But the next 3, including the one I have now, it's fully wrapped in bed box liner. It's called Linex. And so it's what you put in the back of a truck pickup. It's like black gritty stuff that helps to protect you from scraping the paint. We have that wrapped all the way around the truck and extra thick so that if the tornado throws any debris at us, like steel or wood, and that hits us, or if we're getting hit with, like, we can get hit with really big hail and it doesn't leave a mark. Now our windshield and our windows, those do go, and they do go often, like a few times a year. We have to replace those, and it is terrifying. But other people, though, like when we're storm chasing and we'll see cars after the storm, many times a year, I'll see cars parked on the side of the highway and they're just, all the windows are gone. And because they're not storm chasers, like people who just got into a bad situation and they're dented right up. Like it looks like the car got driven over by a monster truck. It's wild what that hail can do.
That's incredible. I mean, is the current vehicle you're going around, is that Brutus that I see on your website, the big orange kind of famous truck that I saw on your next Netflix series as well?
That's right. Yeah.
That's an awesome truck. I think that's the envy of every guy who wants a pickup truck, Brutus. If you're not familiar with that, check it out. It's awesome. It's not quite in my price bracket, or I don't think I could drive it on the UK roads, but I would absolutely love to have something like that. Yeah, I mean, I originally got into this sort of thing, you know, when I was 9, 10 years old, when the original Twister movie came out, and like you say, it was just like an alien thing. I'd never heard or seen anything like that before. I was just kind of overwhelmed by it, and I thought this is incredible. And then back then, like you said, we didn't have YouTube, Facebook, social media really, because I'm an old bugger now. I'm 40 soon, so you know, we didn't grow up with kind of those things, so we didn't get to see it. But then growing up and having the social media then come out, you start to see videos from like the likes of Reed Timmer and other kind of early kind of social media guys come out to document this, and it's really incredible. And with the footage being as good as it is now, you know, it's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's come so far to the point like the footage is getting so good that it's becoming difficult with AI actually, because AI is becoming so good that I'll get called out on my videos and I'll never post anything AI, because if I ever were to do that, and I mean, I don't actually even know how to properly do that, but if I ever did that, then you would forever question me and all trust is gone. And so I'll never do that. But I get questioned all the time, or people will say that, and then other people will think that they're like, oh, this is AI for sure. Because like we do have shots that look unreal, but we've put in the time. Like every year I'm on the road for anywhere from between 5 to 6 months, storm chasing every day, looking for those moments. And that's how we get that footage. Yes, it is wild how far that camera technology has come. What used to be a $10,000 camera, it now costs $500, and it flies, kind of thing. Like it's wild what technology has done.
Absolutely. So, what does a typical day look like for you, Ricky? I can imagine you're on the road for a long period of time. Like you say, you know, we all see your videos, and it's obviously cut down to kind of show the exciting parts. But like you say, there's going to be long hours, or days where perhaps there's not a lot going on. You're kind of just trying to get into the right place, presumably, and lots of overnight stays to kind of get to where you need to be. So, what would you say is a typical day or typical week when you are storm chasing?
Yeah, like a typical week, if we're having storms every day or every other day, which is like May is the highest, the most concentrated point of the season. So like May is high time. And so if you were to join us for a week in May, we're gonna be chasing every day. That's for sure. Not every day will produce a tornado, but every day we'll have a storm. So we might have tornadoes, we might have really cool lightning storms. We might get some really cool cloud structures. Then that's kind of hard to describe. Like if you have a look on my social media or anywhere online, if you look up like motherships or things like that, you're going to see these amazing storm structures where like the clouds are spinning and they're like glowing, the blacks and the blues and the greens. So those kind of storms that we'll seek out, they're all related, but it's just storms will produce different effects depending on what happens as they're growing. So every day we're storm chasing, but a typical day is that if we get to sleep in a hotel, odds are we'll be up about 6, 7 a.m. and we'll meet outside, grab a coffee, and first we have to unplug all of our cameras, because all our cameras come inside, one, so they don't get stolen, and two, so they can charge up. And so we get that all back into the truck. We get everything hooked up. We're ready for the day. Everything's put away and back in its place. Lots of times, and what I mean by that is lots of times we're running 3, 4 guys in our truck. And so if we have 4 guys in the truck and we're on the road for say a month on this run here, that we all have our camera gear, we all have our computers, we all have clothing. And so for 4 people to have that all in a truck, it all has to be in the exact right spot. So we have very specific storage like solutions that we utilize, because we can't have anything in the truck when we're storm chasing, because if it turns to chaos, and if it's chaos outside, it's chaos inside, then we're not going to get the job done. And also we need to have everything in the right spot in the back, because lots of times when you need that camera cable, or if you need to change your shirt because you just got mud all over you, whatever it is, and it's pouring rain outside, you need to know exactly where it is and where you're grabbing it, and you're not like digging through stuff. And so first thing we do every morning, and it takes like a half an hour, is that we're repacking the truck. We repack, and then we hit the road. And well, typically every day we'll have about anywhere from a 3 to 5 hour drive to get in a position. Most storms happen in the afternoon. Some will happen in the morning. The storms we're after happen in the afternoon, and they typically fire up about 2 to 4 p.m. in the time zone that we're in. And so we'll drive anywhere from 3 to 5 hours in the morning. We'll get into location. We try to center ourselves where we think the storms will be happening, and then we start watching as the storms start popping up. We also we'll look first on where the sky's percolating. We'll start to see some clouds bubbling up, and then we'll start to see storms blowing up, and then we have to make a decision. And it's a lot like surfing. If you ever surf or watch a surfing movie, people they'll wait in the water, and a wave will come, and they have to make a choice. Are you going to take that wave, or are you going to wait for the next wave? And that's exactly, and in either way, there's a consequence to that decision, because if you take that, well, then you're giving up the other one. And that's the same thing with storms, is that we have to make a decision. We're like, okay, the way this grew, the ingredients right now, the timing, the heating. Like we essentially, it's like a math equation. We're taking this all into consideration and using our intuition. Is this the storm, or should we wait for the next one? Because wherever one storm can form, another one can form, and that usually does happen. And so you got to make that decision. And yeah, so if we do decide to go, we'll take off and we'll get up underneath it. And then at that point, we get into game mode. And so the driver is focused on driving, and so keeping us safe. We have somebody forecasting, and we have another person reading the maps. And that's a constantly evolving thing. And we all will pitch in and give our input. But somebody has to be looking out the storm radar. Where's the storm? Where's the storm coming from? Where's it going? Is it growing? Is it decreasing? Should we leave it? Should we go to the other one? Is there hail? How big is that hail? And then the person, and how can we dodge that and move around and get into position? And then the person in the back will be reading the maps and letting us know, be like, okay, if we keep going straight, we have left option, that will take us for so many miles. And so every time we pass a road, we recalculate our next road option. That's just something we have to constantly be doing. Because it's such an important ingredient to storm chasing. And most people don't get to see that. But yeah, so it's this constant chatter in the truck about just constantly strategizing, re-strategizing. And then meanwhile, we're trying to get footage, video and photo footage, because that's how we make an income. We put that on social media, we sell that to the media, and we're also reporting on the storm. So when that storm really does start to produce something that you can't see on radar, like on radar, you could see that a storm's a storm, but you can't tell if there's a tornado on the ground. And if we see a tornado on the ground or any remnants of that, we're going to be calling it into local authorities, the local government, who cares, and letting them know. And then we'll chase that. And so ideally we see a tornado and we get to drive beside it. And eventually, hopefully we get to stop, we get out, and we'll take some footage of that, take some footage of us in front of that storm, do the different social media clips that we need. And yeah, if you're riding the truck, everybody's super excited. We're high-fiving. We did it. Mission accomplished. And eventually that tornado will dissipate. And then we'll stop. We'll take about half an hour. And whoever on the team is like selling footage to media will take care of that. Other people will start posting on social media, getting some quick raw clips up. And then next, we go into the mode of chasing the storm. But now we're looking for like cloud structure, because the tornado's gone. Now you might see some cool formations. You'll definitely get lightning, and so we want to capture that because we're there, and that's part of our process. We need that content, and so that will take us right up until 10, 11, 12 p.m. So like we'll be out there till about midnight, and then what happens at midnight or at the end of that chase is now we have to make a decision on where the next storm is. If the next storm is in the area that we're in, like if tomorrow's storm is in the area that we're in, well, then it's easy peasy. We get to book a hotel nearby. It's probably about a half an hour away. We get in there, plug our cameras in, dump our cards, then we get to go to sleep, and we wake up at 7 a.m. and do it all over again. But often what happens, and this can hurt sometimes, is that it's midnight. You look at what tomorrow is, and the storm is 4 states away. And the only way you're going to make it is if you drive through the night. And so then there's no question, like we wait all year for this. We're driving through the night. It's never, we're never lazy about it, because we don't have that. That's not an option. And so working with a multi-person team that we just take turns, each person drives for 3 or 4 hours, and we'll drive through the night for 12, 15 hours to get to the storm the next day in the afternoon, and we'll chase that storm, do it all over again, and then just rinse and repeat.
That sounds like a hard job, man. Honestly, it's yeah, it's like a military operation, and it probably opens a lot of people's eyes in terms of how much work goes into perhaps just a small piece of footage for you guys. And I did wonder that, because I thought, there's always happenings behind the scene. And when I was looking at your early footage, you're probably sat in the back of the car, or you were operating the camera. I see you more on the radar and in the passenger seat these days. Is that where you feel most comfortable at now?
Yeah, I still probably enjoy driving the most. One is just a sense of safety, that it's up to you, and that is when you're driving, you always get to be looking outside. So I do feel the driver gets to enjoy the storm chasing the most, because just focus on driving, and you also get to focus on the beauty of the storm. Because I wouldn't do this if I didn't love it. Like, while it does sound like a big work day, it never feels like work. Like, I'm never looking at the clock. I'm never like, this sucks. Like, I can't wait to do it again. And so when you're the driver, you get to see the storms, and whether you're forecasting or you're reading the maps, whatever it is, lots of times you have your head down, and you're constantly like, you spend more time looking down than you do up, which is unfortunate, but it's just how it is. And then when you do look up, oftentimes you're grabbing a camera to get a photo, to get a video. And so yeah, there's sometimes, and I'm sure there's some people listening that can relate, like you might go to your kid's Christmas concert, or you might go to an actual live music concert, and there's just some people that will have their phone up the whole time, and they didn't actually enjoy it until they watch it later, which is unfortunate. And that happens storm chasing sometimes. Like, and in fact, that's like, with my wife, we keep in constant communication when I'm getting into some big storms, and it is risky what we do. And so my wife and I stay in touch just in case things go south. But something she always reminds me of is, I'll get so focused and so into work mode, and that I just want to get the footage. I want to make sure everything goes perfect, that I forget to enjoy it, and it'll all be over, and I'll be like, man, like I can't even actually remember what it looks like. I have to look at the footage, and my wife will text me like during that moment, actually, because we're live streaming, and she can see how I'm like, if I'm being too serious, and she'll be like, when you get a chance, like, you gotta stop and enjoy it. She's like, you do this because you love it. You need to remember that and just take it all in. And yeah, it's something I forget every time, but
No, that's amazing that she's so supportive of what you do, because I can imagine she could be scared to death with some of the storms that you're chasing. And, like you say, it's the driving aspect too, because I'm watching a lot of these videos, and it's like zero, visibility. You've got stuff being lobbed at you for the windscreen, and I just don't know how you can drive through those conditions. It must be, really difficult. But I suppose a lot of them are they rural roads that you're driving down in the middle of nowhere, or are they built up areas?
The storms do happen everywhere, but the storms that we typically go after are in rural areas. And so you're driving lots of like grid gravel roads, and most of the time there's nobody else out there. And that's one of the reasons why we have such an obnoxious truck, is that it has big tires. Like, we have 37-inch tires. Like, the tires like come up to my waist, and it's a big diesel truck. Because those moments, like those gravel roads, will get washed out, or sometimes we'll come across and they will be flooded, or we have to hit the ditch, and this truck can get us through that. And because if we didn't have that, we would have to resort to more highway driving. And one, you have more public out there, and two, is there's lots of other chasers. Something you often don't quite see on footage is what we call chaser convergence. It's wild. Like, up in Canada, it's rare for me to see another storm chaser. It's usually just me and my friends out there. But down in the States, like especially like in Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, there are times that like on a Saturday where I've seen thousands of cars, thousands of storm chasers, especially when Twisters came out this year. It was like the week after, it was wild. It just like, and so now in the last few years, it's not the tornadoes that are dangerous storm chasing, it's the car accidents, because they're doing the job I explained to you about how we have multiple people. There are people out there doing this as a one-person show, and
With
that's
an
when it gets
iPhone.
dangerous. Yeah, they're looking at their maps, looking at forecasting while they're driving like a little bit too fast. And I'm not poking fingers about that. Like, we all drive a little bit too fast sometimes, but this is that distraction that is really dangerous. Like the distracted driving, but also people being distracted when they're on the road. This often happens, is that people be storm chasing, they'll park on the side of the road, they step out of their car, and they're looking at the sky and in wonder, because it is amazing, but they're not thinking about the car that's distracted coming down the highway. And we hear stories like that every year, that one distracted storm chaser hit another storm chaser who just wasn't paying attention on the highway. And yeah, sorry, man. Again, go off on a side note. I apologize, but yeah.
No, not at all. It's all interesting stuff, Ricky. It's, I mean, you've answered one of my questions, in fact, because I was really interested to know what it was like out on the roads with, like you say, with the technology that we have at our disposal now, the movies, the access to YouTube. Everyone probably thinks they're a storm chaser. They've got their phone, they've got the car, and they're just going to go out there. So that must be, I say, incredibly frustrating, but incredibly dangerous at times, where people just don't know what they're doing. They don't have the experience that, and causing a backup of traffic at times, that you say, in more prevalent areas like Oklahoma. So that's a real interesting insight. So talk to us about Tornadoes Hunters, because that's how you came to be on my kind of radar, and I love the series, anything like that, and it was something. It was a new series for me to watch. I binge watched it probably in a couple of days on Netflix at the time. You just seem like a really good group of lads, having a laugh, but following your passion and doing what you love. And how did that series come about?
So that was we got approached for that my second year into storm chasing, and that was never our goal. And so what happened was, since you watched the series, the person who got me into storm chasing was Greg, and so that's who I met, and we had the talk, and he convinced me to come out. And so and in case if you're listening and you haven't seen the show, Greg Johnson is one of the characters in Tornado Hunters. And so how Tornado Hunters came about is, it was 2013, so my second year of storm chasing. We're all doing the same thing. We're all working at home, and then in our spare time we're going storm chasing. Storm chasing was a hobby at this point. And it was 2013. It was May 31st. It's a day of the El Reno tornado, and if you're into storm chasing at all, you might recognize that. El Reno, Oklahoma. It's the largest tornado that ever happened. The world's largest tornado. It was over 4 kilometers wide, over 2.6 miles wide on the ground, and many of us storm chasers were there, and we were there as well, and we got caught on the edge of it. And we had footage of being inside this tornado, and like things were getting ripped apart. Hay bales were flying around above us. There's tractors flying around above us. It was just a fluke that we didn't go up. We were just lucky, and we were inside for about 45 seconds. It felt like forever, but we have footage of that. And so that being the world's largest tornado to ever happen, it made the news all around the world. Like storm chasing, like tornadoes will make the news once in a while, but this being the world's largest tornado, it made the news around the world. And our footage was some of the top footage being shown, because we were inside of it, and we made it out to tell the story. And a production company in Toronto, Canada, they saw this, and 2 weeks later they reached out and like, hey, we saw this video, we're thinking about making a storm chasing show, do you guys want to be in it? And we're like, yeah, 100%. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, like we need to start filming in 2 weeks. And it was I was supposed to be back at work. I was working in the mines here, and I was 25 years old. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have anything. I was like 100%, I'm doing this. And so I immediately called and quit my job. And we started filming 2 weeks later, and it was a ton of fun. We filmed for 2 years, Tornado Hunters, and got some incredible footage, and had a lot of fun. And it was such a neat experience. It was a neat experience getting to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And what I mean by that is, when we're out there capturing footage, I might take a video on my cell phone or on my camera, and I edit that, and it's just me and my crew. But getting to work with that, like we had to work on that show, like we had a whole film crew following us, and creating a storyline, capturing footage, editing that footage, and what came out, it was magical. It's just, I'm sure anybody being part of a TV show would say that. Like it's pretty neat what you can do as a big group versus what you can do by yourself, is what I'm getting at. Yeah,
definitely. And so that was Greg Johnson and Chris Chittick, wasn't it, that you were working
That's
with
right.
on that show? Do you still see those guys at all? Do you still work with them?
I don't. No. To tell you the truth, just relationships fell apart over the years.
Is that the reason why there was no series 2?
No. The reason was, so what I heard, it was never clearly told to any of us. As far as I understand, it was one or two things, or both. Is one, it was a really expensive show to film. Like most reality shows can be done in 3 to 4 weeks or even shorter, because you can stage things like, okay, whatever it is, whether it's gold mining, whatever, like you can say, okay, tomorrow we're going to do this, and we're going to do this from this time to this time. Where with storm chasing, we had a film crew for just over 2 months, so we were double the budget of a regular reality show, and so we had to bring in the ad dollars through the commercials to make it worthwhile. And I think that's really what it boiled down to. They also said it struggled with ratings a little bit, but I'm not sure about that. But I do know the costs, and it was just impossible to avoid that, because storm chasing, and this is an interesting thing with storm chasing, whether you're filming a show or not, you have to treat every day as if it's the biggest day of your life. Otherwise, you might screw up. And because every day you have no idea if you are about to get the best footage you've ever got. You have no idea if you are about to encounter the next world's largest tornado. And so you need to, and if that's going to happen, you need to be prepared. You need to have your cameras prepared, and you need to be filming throughout the whole day, because you have to tell that story. You have to tell that journey. And so filming the show, it got really tiring, actually. Like for over 2 months, every day we had to from the time we got up to the time we went to bed, we had to go through all the motions of telling the story. Be like, okay, like today where this could happen, and nerves are high, and the first few times you do that, you're like, it's cool, you get to be on camera. But like once you've done that like 60 times in a row, and like the 10 last times didn't work out, like you just keep doing the same thing, and then the afternoon, if the afternoon doesn't work out, well, you got to restart. So what I'm getting at is we're using their resources, and like everybody's charging full dollar, all the film crew and everything, and they have to work hard every day, but we only produce some of those days, and so it's just not a feasible business model in that regard.
No, that's fair enough. And I was gutted when there was no series two, because I enjoyed the first series so much. It's really well produced. I encourage anyone who's interested in storm chasing to watch it. It's funny. I think it's funny watching you guys go around. You have a good laugh, and you get to see a lot of the kind of behind the scenes in terms of what you're up to. So that's fantastic. So you mentioned El Reno. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos again. I'm just obsessed with that storm, because it was so unique. Like you say, it was 2.6 miles in our kind of metrics here. It was the fastest recorded wind speed on history, I believe, Earth history. And sadly, I think it was 8 people died that day, including the Twistex team. And I think this was the one storm that actually, well, there were fatalities with storm chase. And I think is this the one and only time that occurred?
So not the only time. To tell you the truth, there's been many other times since then. Unfortunately, just because there's more and more storm chasers, and therefore you're gonna have more and more accidents. But it was, yes, the first time, like that's how they say that it was the first time that storm chasers had passed away. And it was also, what was important is who it was. Team Twistex, so Tim Samaras and his son Paul Samaras, and their partner Carl Young, they were a crew that was on the original Storm Chasers. That was on Discovery for 5 years. And they were some of the most well-respected storm chasers in the industry. Like Tim Samaras was the Wayne Gretzky of the storm chasing world. Like we all looked up to him. When he came around, he got the most respect. Like he was the godfather of it. And so there's impact in that it wasn't just the storm chasers passed away, but like the all-stars, and so that's what really hit. And that's a large portion why I made the news, and it was a really sad day, and it really sucked to lose them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really sad. I mean, what kind of made it so unique? Because I was watching the footage again earlier today, and it was kind of like it didn't go in a usual or predicted direction, and it just grew so big, so fast that I think it just caught a lot of people off guard. And is that your experience of the day? I mean, talk to me about your personal experience of that particular day.
Yeah, so we were just on the south side of it when it began, because it was on the ground for quite a while. but that's where we encountered it. And so it came down, and so it dropped down as like one cone tornado, and then another one, another vortices came out of the sky and gained into that, and grew into a bigger cone tornado in the fields right in front of us. And it was moving fast, and it was getting close, and we were all in the truck except for Greg. Greg was still on the tree line shooting, and you could they show in the show that he was still on the fence line. And it's not quite clear in the show, but we're all yelling at him that we want to go. Like something doesn't feel right. This is moving too fast. It's coming towards us. Typically, storms will move either north or east or northeasterly fashion, and sometimes they do move south, but typically they go that direction. So when a tornado does hit the ground, we'll park essentially what we feel is behind it, and hopefully it does follow that direction, and then we can tail right behind it is essentially the safest way to go about it. And so we were south of it. It looked like it was traveling right for us, and it did go south a little bit, but what really happened is it started to grow so quickly that it felt like it was moving south, but it was moving south, north, west, east, all at the same time because it was growing so fast. But yeah, so anyways, Greg wasn't getting in the truck. We're yelling at him. Greg finally gets in the truck, and we're driving away down our exit, and we always have an exit in mind, and we're driving south as quickly as possible down this grid road. And I'm driving in this situation, and we can see this wall of the storm. It looks like a big rain wall beside us, but that seems really odd for where we are. There shouldn't be rain for where we are in the storm, and but it's just one big gray wall beside us. And then somebody in the back, I think it was Chris Chittick, he yells that the whole thing is a tornado. And I was like, no way. And I look over and I could see debris, like there's trees in it, and it was ripping sideways past us down the truck. Like the whole thing, the whole wall was moving sideways. And yeah, like what went through my head is that it went from storm chasing went from being exciting to thinking like this might be it. Like we might die. Like this thing is about to hit us, and we are not getting away fast enough. And we were terrified. I was terrified, and because up until this point, we had a really good track record. Like together, we had caught just under 100 tornadoes. We had done it really clean. We felt the truth is there's a feeling of invincibility just because we had such good success up until that point. And yeah, so this tornado is coming up to us, and it starts to hit a couple farms beside us. So some barns start getting torn apart, some homes start getting torn apart. Now we know there's nobody in there because we had gone in and made sure that they had the warnings earlier, because we were out there for like an hour and a half before that all happened. And we're driving past, and the roof gets ripped off one house, and that goes flying past us, and there's like some tin getting torn up, and that's coming at us. And then I start to see a tractor, like in my peripheral, I see a tractor like rolling in the field. And I was like, holy smokes, like if the winds are that strong, our truck is going to get rolled next. And immediately, without looking at the ditch, and granted, I wouldn't have changed my mind, but immediately I throw us into the ditch. And so being around storm chasing, that we know this, that if you're in a vehicle and you're ever near high winds or a tornado, if you're up on the highway, the winds can get underneath you and either roll you or pick you up all together, because the winds will can hit into the ditch, and they'll come up and they'll hook right into you. And where if you get down into the ditch, the winds will actually skirt over top of you and potentially even work in the opposite manner, aerodynamically pushing you down. And so I immediately put us in the ditch. This ditch was not a normal ditch. It was a complete V shape, and it was about 8-9 feet deep. And so when we went in there, we kind of ramped into it, which I expected like a soft kind of U shape, right? We kind of ramped into it and then just slammed. And then we were like, it felt like we were like on a water slide almost, like we're bobbing back and forth. And it really hurt, and it really hurt the truck too. But we had no choice. And so we're down in this ditch. we're getting bounced around, and I see hay bales flying around, and I see farm machinery starting to go up, like some implements, like one was like a baler, I forget what this other one was. And then so we're going through, and at this point, I can hear some windows cracking in the back. Our ears have popped, and the reason why our ears popped is that the pressure changes inside a tornado. So it takes, because these tornadoes will be these tornadoes are in storms called supercells, and these supercells are 40, 50, 70,000 feet tall. A plane usually flies around 35, 40,000 feet. And so your ears pop in a plane, that pressure is brought down to the ground. Our ears popped, and that's when we knew we were inside this tornado. And so our ears have popped, things are getting flown around, and like I'm white knuckling the steering wheel, and I was certain at this point that this was it. And I actually started to cry a little bit, that I wasn't ever going to get to see my loved ones again, my parents. And in my head, I was just thinking that this wasn't worth it. This wasn't worth dying over. And yeah, I was just so sad. But I was like, but in my head, I wasn't going to go out not fighting. So it's not like I was like, it was pedal to the metal. I had no idea how fast we're going, as fast as that truck would move. And I was doing everything I could to get us out of there. And I'm telling you this, and again, like this is 45 seconds or less, but it felt like an eternity. And I think I've read afterwards that, you know, when you get that kind of adrenaline pumping into you, that it does slow reality down, and it can feel like it slows time down so you can react better. And that's really what it felt like. It felt like it felt like 10 minutes. And we're going through all this. The way it ended is that as we're going through the ditch, I see a piece of farm machinery way off in the distance, but it's up in the air, and it's this big long grain farm truck, and I could see it slowly rotating. And it wasn't the right time to think this, but I was like, holy smokes, like this is like a scene right out of Twister. Like I've seen this in Twister. And yeah, this two-ton grain farm truck was flying through the air, and so I thought about the Twister, and then I thought about, I was like, oh man, if that truck is up in the air, we're going next, and this is going to be awful. And yeah, so that farm truck comes flying through the air. It lands right in front of us in the ditch. I just reacted, and I grabbed the steering wheel, and I ripped us back up onto the road. We ramp up onto the road. I don't know how high we went, probably a foot or two, but definitely hurt when we came down, and drove like another 100 feet, and we were out in the open, and the sun was out, and we were outside of the tornado. The tornado had dodged south a little bit as it grew, and then it started to go back northeast, and we had driven straight south out of it. And yeah, we got out, and I was so scared that I just kept driving for the next 10, 15 minutes. And the guy's like, Ricky, you can stop. You can stop. And I was like, nope, like I'm making absolutely sure that we are clear of this storm. And yeah, we finally pulled over and got out, and you can look back and see this massive tornado that's way off in the distance. And it was, I still, every time I storm chase, I'm reminded of that. It's just that has put a fear into me that I'll never shake.
It's like you've experienced Armageddon and you've come out the other side. That's just mental, absolutely mental. And yeah, it's. I mean, how long did it take you after experiencing that to kind of get back on the road? Were you back storm chasing pretty much immediately after, or did you need to take some time out just to kind of bring yourself back together?
Yeah, like I went home. So that's May, right in the height of tornado season, and we're filming too. And I told the guys I couldn't do it anymore, and so I went home, and that lasted 3 weeks. I've become really good friends with the producer of that show, and we were good friends then. And he had come over and he talked to me, and we talked about how we could do things differently to mitigate that risk a bit better. And like practices, I still like we changed our strategy after that, and I still like have that new strategy now. And yeah, so what I was certain then though I was going to quit, but after having 3 weeks to sit on it and chat with the fellas, I went back, but we definitely started off timid. You know, like a few weeks that, like, we screwed up quite a few times because when you're storm chasing, there's once in a while you got to take a quick risk to get into a better position. What I mean by that is, there's a road that zigs for 100 feet, and it's going to go through a thick part of the storm, but then you'll be in a better position. And we always did that before, but after getting bitten by the snake, we're like, no, we're not taking that risk. And then the storm moves on and we lose it, and we're like, okay, well, it's another day lost. And so yeah, we definitely were timid, and that's gone. It was gone about the next year after that. But yeah, like I said, it's still, especially when I get close enough to a tornado to hear it, which is like when there are tornadoes on the ground, that's our goal, is that you are close enough to hear it. That it takes me back to that moment right away. Like, just I've never been so scared.
Yeah. Does it sound like a freight train? You know, some people are saying, you know, when you're hearing a tornado quite close, it just sounds, you know, incredibly, obviously loud, but like a freight train is coming through you almost.
Yeah. So a tornado, if a tornado is just in a field on its own, it'll sound like a jet engine, like an airplane jet engine. They go. Once it starts to hit something, whether it's trees or buildings, then it starts to sound like a freight train. Like, it takes on a bit more of a bass to it, if that makes sense. Because now it's essentially it's a blender of all these goods like hitting each other up in the air, and that's really what you're hearing. Because inside a tornado, it's not one smooth cycle. It is a blender. It's winds going, like, even though they are kind of all moving in a circular motion, there's lots of like little eddies and little circles happening within, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think anyone who's interested in this, go check out the El Reno videos, and particularly Ricky's stuff. It's just, you know, it's hard to imagine, you know, what you went through. I mean, talking of Armageddon and my obsession of just watching these videos, I don't know if you've ever seen the Clem Schultz video. That's got to be the closest footage that I've seen posted online so far. I think it was Fairfield. I forget the state, Illinois maybe, but it's an older guy. He's looking out of his window, and in the distance you can see this quite big tornado, and it's not moving. And like I say, when it's not moving, it tends to be coming straight at you. And I think within a minute of watching the video is not very long, but it just descended into pure darkness. You can see it come over the house. It hit his house. It unfortunately killed his wife. But the footage is some of the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Have you seen that, Ricky?
I haven't. No, it's Glenn Schultz.
Clem, Clem Schultz. Yeah, as in Schulz, I think it's spelled. It's honestly, it's a short video, but it's absolutely worth watching to see something of that magnitude so close. And it had a tragic ending, but wow, what a video that was.
Holy crap.
You got it up now? It's mental, isn't it? That's gnarly.
Yeah, like it's wild. Like, tornadoes, they even when you're there, they seem so, like, if they're in the middle of an open field, and sorry, like, as we're talking about this, sometimes when I talk to people, they're like, they think storm chasers are after filming a tornado hitting a populated center and destroying lives. Tornadoes do hit populated areas, but like, when that happens, like, our cameras go down and we go into search and rescue mode, we go into help mode. We're not out there to sensationalize. Like, we're out there to see tornadoes in the middle of an open field. And when you see it, it seems beautiful, but like, when you get that close, like that video there, when you get that close to a tornado, which happened to us a few times, it is terrifying. Like, that is it feels like you're putting your face towards like a saw blade, or like, all destruction is right there, and it's so scary, like that that your life could be gone at any second.
Yeah, it's an incredible video, and I think the guy, when they interviewed him after, he just froze because he's looking out of his window and he just couldn't take his phone or his eye, and probably didn't have time to move anyway, regardless. So,
Yeah.
it's just something worth checking out. But anyway, let's move on slightly, mate. And I was going through your Facebook this week, and I could see with the premiere of Twisters that came out not too long ago, particularly in the UK. What was your involvement there? There was a premiere that you attended. Did you have any involvement in the movie at all?
No, I wish. I really tried. They had like a casting call out. They said they were actually looking for real storm chasers with storm chasing vehicles, and I put in an application. Never heard anything from them, but we saw them filming lots. Like when we were they were down in Kansas area filming, and we quite a few times 2 summers ago we would drive past them while they're filming. But the reason, it was a really cool experience. So I got to go to the Twisters premiere in Los Angeles, and like I'm saying this as if it's all cool, but to me it was like I was a little kid at Christmas. Like never ever did I ever think I was going to be on a red carpet in LA for the movie Twisters. It was just super cool. And what happened there was GoPro reached out. GoPro was a big part of the Twisters movie. If you watch it, you'll see they have GoPros in the windows there and stuff. And so GoPro reached out. They wanted to bring a real storm chaser to the movie. And so I went there with GoPro, and we did the red carpet thing and got to meet the cast. And I'm also a big cinema buff, and so to be in one of these old theaters and where other premieres been happening for years and years, and to be a part of that and to sit in the old seats, and like the cast even came up and did like a little Q&A before the movie started. Like it was just such a cool experience. And I got to bring my wife, and that was great, because once in a while I get these opportunities, but unfortunately they're like, well, it's just you, there's not room for two. And so to be able to bring and then all I end up doing, when that happens, all I end up doing is calling my wife after and telling her how it was, versus this, getting to bring her and experience it with her. It just made it so much better. And it was super cool, man.
So you got to earn some brownie points for a good long time with the wife then, by taking her.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's awesome. So from a storm chaser's perspective, then, what did you think of the movie? It's just interesting to know kind of from your perspective, your thoughts on it, because it's obviously Hollywood, and and you see it firsthand. So do you think it kind of accurately depicts what actually happens? Obviously it's dramatized and this and that and the other, but what are your thoughts anyway?
Yeah, like like you said, some things were a bit fictionalized, but you have to for a movie. But actually, what I really did appreciate about is how on point they were with storm chasing. I found out afterwards they did consult with a few storm chasers, and those guys did a great job working with them. Because they use a lot of proper slang and the thought process and the things that are said inside the vehicle within storm chasing, that was happening in the movie, and it felt really true to the storm chasing world. And what was really cool is actually the original Twister movie. It did so well, and there was other storm chasing movies then, and there have been since then, but the original Twister movie resonated because it was legit. That's what it was like to storm chase then, and that's why people loved it. And there's been many storm chasing movies since, like Sharknado, kidding, but like Into the Storm or things like that, where it's over the top and it's too much, and that's not legit. But I really feel Twisters is going to be, if it not already is the Twisters is the Twister of our generation, if that makes sense, because it is legitimate to how storm chasing is now. Like even things like there's a part you've seen it.
I saw it a few weeks ago, but on a small telly in my bedroom. So I need to actually spend some proper time on a big screen to kind of take it in, because I really loved the first movie all those years ago, and I just wanted to have a proper watch. So I will be watching it again this weekend.
No, it's definitely worth on proper television. Turning the sound up. Sorry, I was gonna say that you see in there, like at one point they're all gathered at the gas station. That happens every time we go storm chasing. It's usually a gas station, or sometimes it's out on a gravel road that we all kind of make the same forecast, and then we end up in the same spot of where we're going to start. And the tornadoes you see in that movie do happen in real life. And in fact, the tornadoes that happen in real life actually end up being a lot bigger and a lot scarier The things where it gets a little fictional, quite a bit fictionalized is when he's driving his truck. He's driving his truck right into a tornado. 100%, he would be picked up, and that would be it. Like a truck can't withstand that. It'd be pretty rare. Like I know I just told you a story about how we drove through a tornado. We were lucky, and we were in a ditch, and by him driving into one like that isn't quite gonna work. And but putting down the spikes, the drill bits, like Reed Timmer has a Dominator, and they're driving into tornadoes, and they have spikes, and so it was similar, but their tank is built aerodynamically. This guy has an old Dodge, Glenn Powell has an old Dodge. So there was some things that's like, well, it's not quite how it would work. But like the homage to Al Reno, like Al Reno gets hit in the movie, and it was really cool. And there's like homages to like the original Twister.
It was a lot of tip of the hats, wasn't there, to the original and to certain things that only kind of geeks like me would probably remember. But no, I thought, from a kind of first glance at it, I thought it was pretty good. So I'll do it justice and have another watch this weekend, mate. But what else have you got going on then, Ricky? What's kind of going on in your world? Any exciting projects coming up for you?
Yeah, so right now is our off season. And so, like high season for us is like 6 months. So it's like March, April, May, June, July, August, September. And so then in the fall, I'm at home largely editing content and getting that footage out, putting it out on social media daily, finishing up sponsor contracts. Most of my income now is based off of sponsor work. And so getting those photos and videos out. Some of it goes to social media. Some of it they use on their websites or email newsletters or things like that. That's part of the contract that I get them that footage. And then it's getting ready for next year. So working with sponsors for contracts, getting ideas lined up. Right now we're going through, actually about to pitch a new storm chasing show for next year. And so working on that. It feels like I have free time, but like still putting in like 50, 60 hours a week, making kind of closing off this season and getting that ready for next season. And doing all that, actually getting really excited for a big trip that my family's doing here at the end of December into January, that we're going to head to Central America. I have 2 kids and my wife, and we're going to go down there and do a little backpacking. So working extra hard, 1, to pay for that, and 2, so I can take off 3 or 4 weeks coming up here.
Awesome. I think you'll deserve the break and some time with the family, mate, seeing what you do and what you put up with throughout the year, just to bring us some awesome content. Look, it's been awesome having you on, Ricky. I've really enjoyed this. It's been a great conversation. Where can we find you? I know you've got your YouTube, your Facebook, your Instagram. Where's kind of the best place, or is it just kind of spread out for you?
Yeah, I would say I put the most effort into Instagram. I want to tell you that I put effort everywhere, but the Instagram content is I think is where I put most of my passion into. So yeah, if you head to Instagram, you look up Ricky Forbes. I am on all platforms, but you're gonna find the best content there. And that's about it, man.
Awesome, dude. Well, you promised us at the beginning of the show that you'll do a karaoke performance. I can't remember what you wanted to do. You could do some Meatloaf, Bonnie Tyler. What do you want to do, mate?
Do you know Shania Twain?
Oh, Shania Twain, that was it. Yeah, it keeps with the country theme then, doesn't it? Are you a good singer?
Okay. You ready?
Go on.
All right, here we go. Whose bed have your boots been under? That's only.
I like the way you took off your hat just to do that. That's getting right into it. Look, dude, I've enjoyed having you on. Thank you so much, Ricky. And to the grit, the grind, and the revival, thanks everyone for listening. And thanks again to Ricky. Cheers all.